This is my soon-to-be ex-wife, Emilia. We thought that it would be useful to come together to give you an idea of a little bit of the journey that we've been through over the past 4 months. Some of you may have seen my previous video in which I was talking about the steps that I personally took. But in that video, I also said that Emilia had very kindly agreed to at least sit down and record, we'll see if this goes live, a video in which she gives a little bit of her side of the story, and maybe I'll add a little bit more of what was going on for me at the time and things like this. And hopefully this will be useful for some viewers who feel like they might be going through something similar, just to get an idea of what it's been like for somebody that maybe you feel like you know a little bit, and specifically for two people who are kind of involved with magic, right? Kind of involved with spirituality, kind of involved with just self-development in general as well, and who have wanted the best outcome for each other the whole time, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, Emilia.
I just wanted to say I'm very scared, so bear with me, because I don't do that. It doesn't come naturally to me to be on camera. So.
I'm really, really grateful, Emilia, that you accept to do this.
Okay.
And it's kind of weird for me as well, interviewing my still wife, but soon to be ex-wife, right?
It is weird.
It's kind of an unnatural situation. So yeah, please bear with us.
We'll
also,
try to have fun.
We're gonna try to have fun, and also please realize that we won't be discussing the whole of the situation. Obviously, there are going to be areas that are very, very personal, very private, right? Hopefully that makes sense, that we wouldn't be talking about those specific areas in public. But to the extent that it's possible, we're going to be as open and as authentic as possible in this process.
Okay.
Emilia, maybe I can start off by asking you a little bit about the lead up to that moment that I talked about in the previous video, where you told me that you were no longer in love with me. That must have been a very frightening moment for you, and just a frightening few months leading up to it, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, it was very scary. Yes, scary to the point that I didn't want to tell you in your face, right?
That's right.
I was writing a letter, but then it sort of came to a head, and I thought, well, it's now or never. Yeah, you're gonna have to edit that, 'cause I'm thinking.
That's okay.
And okay, what led to this? I think it's actually taken a long time. It wasn't just a few weeks before I told you. I was like, oh, okay, like I don't feel anything anymore. It was a process, and it took years, I think. It took years, and my voice is going. Okay.
It's okay, take your time.
Mm-hmm. I will. Because there's so many layers to it, right? There are so many layers to it, and it's very hard to put it in a very congruent sort of one sentence or even a few sentences.
That's right.
Well, I suppose that to start off with, you have to go back to the start, right? And how I was maybe taught, not necessarily actively taught, but even unconsciously taught by my culture, by society, by my parents, taught how to relate to people and what's important in relation to another person. And in a nutshell, I was carrying in me this conviction that not only it's okay to give up on yourself for another person, but it's actually what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to sort of adapt to another person and push yourself to the side completely if it's necessary.
I suppose not just through learning through society or anything like this, but actually through personal life experiences, maybe?
Yes, of course. I mean, that all feeds into it, right? We can't escape personal life experiences, right? And most of them are sort of instilled in us at a very early age.
That's right.
What's important and how we look for love and how we relate to...
Even acceptance amongst peers, right?
Yes, absolutely, all of that. And also the personal experiences of how we think we're able to get love and how we crave love and what it does to us. And so the whole of your experience sort of translates into this relationship dynamics. And I think it happens because relationships are so important for people in general in their lives, right? So we have this ingrained need and desire to make relationships work, to really give as much as possible so that things work. And so inadvertently we compromise our integrity very often if we're not fully conscious of exactly who we are and what we need and on what we want. And at the age of 20...
Which is when we met, right?
Which is when we met.
Very, very early.
It really is very hard to know. I mean, you think you know who you are, right? And that's the trap. You think you know who you are. You think you know what you want, but you really don't. I
just want to speak to that point and to say that is exactly precisely my experience as well. And that absolutely, at the age of 20 you're just starting to discover who you are. Some people are just starting to discover who we are. Some people know exactly who they are at the age of 7,
Yes, lucky ones.
That certainly wasn't my case, and I don't think it was your case. And finding each other was like, oh, here's somebody who actually likes me. Yes. My goodness, okay. It doesn't matter who that person is. They like me. Fine. I've found love. That's right. I'm getting the love that I've been craving, and that is the whole point. That is the whole purpose of my entire life, and wonderful. And it doesn't matter who that person is. I will adapt to make sure that this stays, right? Yeah. And so that's obviously not sustainable.
Yes.
I mean, we get on really well. We're very good friends, right?
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, we're
very,
absolutely. Very good friends. We have fantastic conversations.
Yes.
We really, really enjoy.
It's not like we hated each other from the start and then we still decided, this is a good match.
That's right.
There's lots there that is fun and.
But there's more to a romantic relationship than enjoyable philosophical conversations.
Yes, it turns out.
It turns out.
Yeah.
So yes, it was profoundly unfulfilling from that perspective for both of us, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yes. And for as long as that was my experience anyway. Like I'm not generalizing it, but that was my experience. That for as long as I was not present with myself 100% and knowing exactly, well, I still don't know exactly, but like knowing a lot more who I am and what I need and what I want from life and from my relationships. For as long as that was the case, I lived in this sort of illusion that this can be worked on, right? Like that we can break these patterns, that we can put something there that just wasn't there from the start, but I didn't know because I had no way to see it.
Nothing to compare it to.
That
right.
It wasn't there, right? So it was a long process of, I guess, just finding out who I actually was, to kind of digging deep to individuate.
Exactly. So could you share with the viewers what processes you were going through, like what you were doing internally, maybe some books that you'd been reading that helped you to get a firmer grip on who in fact you are?
Anything to do with my personal spirituality had significant impact. So if somebody is in that area of human experience, I suppose the thing I could say is just go towards what draws you in naturally. Go towards what makes you feel excited and what gives you this sense of magic and mystery
I mean,
right?
we have spent 20 years together. This probably makes some sense.
and then you'll find it there, and it's going to be different thing for different people. I think the most important thing is to follow your intuition in what gives you that kind of moment of, oh my God. You know, and go into this, and this will lead you to places where you can look at yourself and know yourself better. That's definitely what I would recommend.
If you had to pick out, sorry for interrupting. If you had to pick out 3 to 5 books that the viewers who are looking to find themselves might.
Okay, yeah. The first book that made a huge impact, it's an old book already, I think, is The Road Less Traveled. The Road Less Traveled was the first book I read in the area of sort of discovering yourself, and I remember that really made a huge impact. I had a series of very significant dreams after reading this book, and it was like epiphany after epiphany. It was just a constant, oh my God moment, right? Like it was a constant, I understand, I get it, right? So that was one of those.
Quite a popular book. I remember you reading that. That was like 15
Oh, that was at the beginning of the road,
yeah,
really. That was at the beginning of me kind of looking in. What else was? I mean, for me personally, the Tree of Life and the Kabbalah was very important. So, but that's.
It was Dion Fortune, wasn't it?
It was Dion Fortune that I started with, and then kind of it followed with various other books and authors. So that spiritually, that was my sort of way into magic, right? At the beginning.
I guess there was some ancestor work that you did.
I did. So that's recent. That's more recent. And that was, I think, in a way, a very sort of last piece of the puzzle, and a thing that very directly impacted what's happened between us. I've done it a year ago, so it's very recent, right? A year, maybe 2 years ago now. The work I've done internally was based on a book called It Didn't Start With You. I think that's the title. And I just followed the book. The book is really clear and very precise, and that there's mental, emotional exercises that you need to do. And the book just leads you through it. And the ancestral work that I've done as a result of reading this book,
generational healing, right?
Yes, generational healing. That was so powerful, and I wouldn't be able to tell you what happened exactly because I don't have that much of an access to the other side, but something major has shifted. I didn't know it externally, so the reality didn't feed it to me immediately, but within me it was like a shifting of puzzle pieces. Basically what it did was it got rid of anxiety in me almost entirely, which I've lived with anxiety all my life. And so clearly it was something to do with the ancestral work and the generational trauma. And I mean, my grandparents were through the Second World War, so it's not really a surprise, right? But there were some internal family stories that were quite traumatic as well. So
sorry for interrupting once again. Just to say for viewers who don't know, Emilia's Polish. So when she says that her grandparents went through the Second World War, we're talking about in a very direct, very immediate way, right? Yeah.
Yes, grandparents, my great-grandparents, right? And on top of that, there were some family stories that I found out about in the process, and I was able to clear that energy. And I mean, that was profound. That was really significant and profound. And it internally reshuffled me in a way that I really didn't expect. It was a surprise, It was a surprise because nothing so far worked as well as that process. So that was important. And I think the third thing that's personally very important is Aidan Wachter's 6 Ways and Weaving Fate, these 2 books in particular. And they have been really significant in teaching me to access my own power, my personal power. There is an exercise, there is a ritual that he recommends in 6 Ways, which is all about regaining your personal power. And the Weaving Fate book is just a really beautiful and workable and effective way of bringing yourself into reality and making reality mirror what you want it to mirror and what you want it to do.
So if you follow these recommendations, you will lose your relationship.
There you go.
So the point, of course, is that if you follow these recommendations, you will find exactly who you in fact are and determine whether what you have been putting together, up until now, was in fact what you wanted, was in fact what was good for you. And I think that that's actually what's significant here, right?
Yes,
is that you can continue just deluding yourself for the rest of your life and pretending, no, what I wanted for the past 20 years is what I wanted for the past 20 years and I'm not going to give up on it because it's been 20 years. Or, okay, it's life and now I know more and actually maybe I can get something that actually works for me,
that doesn't feel so much like a struggle and a burden.
Yes.
But actually feels like like
Congruence.
something that I want. Yeah, congruence and ease to a certain degree. I mean, no, don't get me wrong. This has not been easy. Right, I'm just I'm just projecting into the future, right?
Yeah. I think it's been harder for you than it has been. It's been hard for me. I mean,
yeah.
To be clear, it's been very hard for me, but I don't think I've experienced anywhere near the difficulty, the level of difficulty that you've been through.
Emotional, right? Emotional difficulty and. Because of the complexity of the situation, right? I guess what's important to say is that you need to take into consideration that if you live in certain patterns for a very long time, and partly these patterns are not conscious, there will be some unconscious patterns. There's no escaping that. There'll be some things in the shadow. So if you've lived with a certain setup for so long, for your entire life, that setup, even if you want to break it and you want to be on the other side of the setup and you want to bring in something new and something, it's not going to just change overnight because you decided and go like, hey, now I'm a different person, hooray, like I'm authentic. And,
of course,
there need to be things internally and externally. Like if you're asking the universe, like, change my circumstance, it's not just going to flip the script overnight. Certain things have to happen in order for you to grow into the person that you want to be, first of all. And that is a very painful process. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's a really because we don't realize how much there is underneath that needs to be just
brought up and
and addressed and
sifted
cleared and so much gunk. Like there really is. Like there's no two ways about it, right? So one thing is to want to be authentic and to want to be living in agreement with who you are and to want the reality to reflect that to you. But another thing is to get there from sort of A to B, right? And it is a process and it is uncomfortable. I reckon probably you have to be ready for that, right? That if you've lived a certain way for a long time, the process of breaking free from that, of kind of breaking the shell and
It's breakage. It's obviously going to hurt. It's obviously not going to be comfortable. It's a
tower moment, right?
Yeah.
You have to destroy, the structures that were there in order to build something new.
So you and I have been living in separate flats now
Yes.
for, it's been a couple of months, something along those lines.
Yes, probably
Would you mind sharing with the audience anything fresh, any changes, anything we could talk about, both negative and positive, that you've been experiencing over the past couple of months that we have been living separately?
Okay. I guess we can start with the negative and then put a positive spin on it.
So it's all negative.
No, it's not. It's not. Hang on, let me think. So I think the most difficult part of the whole process for me was the fact that I didn't realize to what extent I was scared of being alone. Right, so this drive to relate and to always have somebody for sort of safety, for that was so strong in me that it was almost tripping up the will to live in my power, right? And to live, because it's exactly the opposite, right? You want to live in your power, you want to live in your authenticity, and there's subconscious fear of being on your own, not having anybody there to rely on, right? So these two kind of don't go together, right? Like they just exactly the opposite. And so that really surfaced for me over the past few months, right? Let me even before
when we were talking about
so that kind of that surfaced in a way that I didn't expect. I really wanted this to live in agreement with my authentic self, and then I got that, and I was like, what now? What do I do now? Like, I'm alone. I can't be alone. I don't want to be alone. So all that sort of surfaced, and it took a while to calm down. But I am happy to say that right now it's all done.
Yes.
And I'm not scared anymore, which is a really empowering feeling as well. And I'm starting to appreciate the fact that I'm alone, and really appreciate it. I'm not just saying it to put a positive spin on the entire situation.
Yeah.
Yes, because I've never been alone.
Yeah.
It's always been either my parents or my boyfriends or my husband.
Emilia was living with her parents when we met.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. This is the first time ever in my life at a ripe age when I actually am alone, and I can start to notice my preferences, and it's even little things, like what flowers I want to plant on the balcony, whatever, it's not big things, but it's everything feeds into it. I guess, it's agency, right?
Agency, exactly.
It's agency.
Yeah.
Like, I can decide what I want to do, when I want to do it, and I suppose if you've not had that experience in your life ever, how can you know who you really are, right? And then if you don't have that foundation of this is who I am, this is what I prefer, this is what I like, this is something that I'm not prepared to give up on, this is something that's important to me, right? All of these things that constitute a person who is stable, right, and grounded. Like, if you don't have that, how on earth are you supposed to relate to another person in a healthy way? It's impossible. It's just impossible.
Can we talk a little bit about that sense of a lack of agency that we've both had for the past 20 years?
Yes. it was sort of under the surface for a very long time for me anyway. I don't know if it was like that for you.
I was very aware of it actually. Yeah, I'll maybe if you don't mind, I'll talk a little bit about my side
absolutely.
a little bit. Just very briefly, my experience was that I was doing everything as a compromise with what Emilia would want, although I wasn't always sure what Emilia wanted because she wouldn't necessarily formulate it for me. I'd have to guess, and it would always be wrong, right? There was no possible way of ever getting a, do you know what? That's great from Emilia. No, it was always, yeah, but it's not great, is it? So of course, this isn't something that she intended. I've worked out pretty much what was going on, but I'm interested to hear. I've worked out what I think was going on, right? But I'd like to hear it from Emilia. But yes, so everything that I was doing was either a compromise or simply just doing things that I thought would be acceptable for Emilia, right? So that was what my life was. If I'm doing this today, is Emilia going to be sulking? Or is she going to be saying, hey, you did a good job? Thinking that could ever happen, but it never did really. It never did.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
I think that came to a head when I spent like literally an entire week painting the kitchen next door, and she came in on a day when it was particularly sunny. There wasn't any furniture in, it was just the walls, and there was a little tinge of pink in the white that I'd chosen. It was kind of a warm white, right? And she came in and it's like, it looks like a Barbie's house. We need to do it all over again. I'm like, what? So yeah, that was a big thing.
Sorry.
That was a big thing.
I can see it's still a very painful experience.
Yeah. I mean, a week's hard labor is not nothing,
I know.
So the thing is that, of course, the whole time I was doing it, I was thinking to myself, Emilia's going to be satisfied. I'm going to do it really, really well.
I'm just finding out.
Yeah, I'm going to do it really, really well. It's 9 p.m. I've been working hard, but I'll push through another hour so that this doesn't dry, because I know that if it does dry and Emilia sees it, she's not going to be satisfied. So I'll finish it up. Oh my goodness, I worked so hard. Yeah, hate it. So yeah, this is just an example, right?
Yes.
But this was my daily life.
Yeah.
So yeah, being told that you didn't love me anymore was like, what? But also, after I'd got over that took some time, right? I've made a video already about how I went from there to being okay, but I might go into a little bit more detail. But the outcome that I came to quite quickly was, I'm going to be able to do stuff that I want to do and not have to worry if it's going to satisfy Emilia, because I was living through her gaze. And I think Emilia was living through mine.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very similar experience for me. But I suppose what was different is that I gave up very quickly, right? You were trying and trying and trying over the years. And I just, having had the sort of feedback quite early on, that what I'm doing is just not good enough, and it's just this wasn't a great idea, or I would do it a different way, or whatever it was. So having gotten that feedback a few times, I was like, whatever, I'm just gonna stop doing things. I'm just gonna stop sharing things, stop sharing my ideas, stop taking care of, stop buying things for the house because it's always the wrong thing. I just sort of backed out of life, right? And had that feeling and resentment that there is no space for me in our space, right? And I tried to sort of find that space somewhere else and meet new friends and kind of try and do my own thing outside of the house. But it really just kind of kills your energy so much, because you don't have... It turns into this thing where you don't have a space that is safe, that you can return to, right? I mean, you can go out for the entire day and, you know, spend your time clothes shopping and, you know, do lots of sort of really insignificant things that just fill your time away from the person. But then you still come home and it doesn't feel like home because there's no space.
It's the place where I have to put this mask on. I have to tiptoe. I have to be the person that he or she feels is going to still love.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Not open myself completely, because then I'm making myself vulnerable, and there's always something coming in that's like, oh, you know, that's not a great thing to think, or I'm like, you know. So, and it sort of became this dynamic where the only thing I could compare it to was two batteries going plus to plus or minus to minus, right? And the energy is just not flowing.
No flow.
There's just no flow of energy. There's no exchange. And so it becomes more and more exhausting, really.
There's no renewal, right?
There's no renewal, there's no spark, nothing's flowing. Everything,
what you need from a romantic
stuckness, right? Stuckness and that sort of spills all over your entire life, right? There's no energy to invest into yourself, to develop, to grow. There's no, it's stagnation. It's just complete stagnation for, you know.
So then the big event, and so how was that for you, Amelia? I mean, it was terrifying. Yeah, we talked about the moment when you told me you didn't love me anymore, but then there was communication.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about that? We started talking, didn't we? We started discussing what was going on for each other, because there was nothing to lose at this point.
Yes, I guess that was the important piece, right, of the whole situation. That after that there was no pressure to hide anything in order to continue being loved. So yeah, we did start talking, and yes, and we've I think this what we have between us now, this friendship and sort of understanding and acceptance of one another, I don't think that's ever happened between us. This is really, really new and really positive, and to be honest, like for years I didn't think it would even be possible, because you know, we were so far detached and so resentful, and you know, but yeah, we started talking. I think our therapist helped.
Oh my goodness!
Immensely with that as well. That was.
I talked about. I'm wondering whether she would appreciate having her name mentioned, but I'll maybe her first name. Julia. Amazing, absolutely amazing therapist from our ritual. I had my final session with her yesterday, and I told her that she was like a life raft for us during that time. We started talking without her, though, right?
We started talking without her, yes. We started talking without her. And yes, as you said, by this point, there was nothing to lose. So we started talking openly, right? And I think that is, I mean, it's obvious in a way, right? But it's probably not obvious in so many relationships where you feel scared, where you feel unsure of yourself, right? To just be completely open, completely open about everything that's going on. And
I think one of the key points here is that the things that we were talking about were not to hurt each other. I think that's kind of key, right?
Yes.
The point was to, in fact, explore what had been going on for each other, completely without judgment.
Yes, just to be able to understand what the other person is going through.
The point of it was understanding. It was not to say, hey, not to assign blame, right? I think if our goal had been to assign blame, then that would have broken down immediately, of course.
No.
So every step of the way, we were very aware of that need to not be blaming, but to be both accountable and truthful about what we've been experiencing from personal perspective, right?
Yes.
So when you did this, this is how I experienced it. Not you made me feel like this, not you chose to make me feel like this, etc. But rather you did this and you didn't know this, but I felt this way, right? So that was what was going
talking
on.
Openly about our own experience.
Being open and unashamed of our own experience.
Yes, that too, right? Like,
we did a lot of crying, didn't we? Both of us. Yeah.
Rivers.
Yeah, that was intense, but
really needed as well, right? And sort of
cathartic,
so cleansing, and absolutely, and so just to kind of turn the page and start a new relationship, right?
That's right.
That has a very different shape to it.
Not a romantic relationship, but a healthy friend-based relationship.
And familial, right? I mean, we are family, right? We've got a son together. And
that's right.
So this is,
So Emilia knows, I have been talking to other people, and I've been very open with the women that I've been speaking to about the fact that we're recently separated, and that I do spend my Saturday nights on the sofa here in the old flat, and they're like, "Oh, that's a bit weird," and I'm like, "Well, actually, I think about it like visiting an aunt, Yeah. So that's kind of the kind of relationship that we have now. We just got a nice, and we do like the same areas of philosophy.
Exactly.
Which is a good, it's a good basis.
Conversations are still great, right, in that area, and and there's a value in it that would be a shame to lose it, right? So there's. It's not like there's no love. It's just a different kind of love, I guess. Right?
That's right.
And, I've just speaking to my friend the other day. I said, it's a little bit like having a cousin over now.
You're more you're kinder than me.
I'm an aunt. Okay then.
There's an exercise that we were asked to do early on in our therapy process, which was to write down the things that turn us on. Do you remember doing that?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think Emilia was in a very different place than I was, but the process of writing that down and of asking Emilia to write down what those elements might be for her was extremely helpful for me, because I was able to realize that I wasn't hitting any of those check marks, or very few of them, right? I mean, some of them were absolutely being hit, but nowhere near enough, I think. Right.
And the same for you as well, right? On my part, right? So
I think, obviously we stayed away from physical attributes. I mean, there's a pretty woman, as you can see, but I think attraction goes so much deeper than that. At least it should, and certainly it does for me. And those checkpoints, which are crucial for me and for Emilia, just weren't being checked.
Just weren't meeting, right? And as you said, right, it goes much deeper than just physicality.
That's right.
And on deeper levels, we just completely not matching one another. So that was interesting to discover, right? And it was probably a mistake to discover it after 20 years of marriage,
right?
Than at the very beginning of the relationship. But for that, you would have to have known yourself better. Like, I'm speaking about myself. I was not in a place when I was 22, something like that, right? 23, to know what these things would be for me.
What I was saying in my previous video is that I kind of wish that we'd gone to therapy at the very start of our relationship when things seemed to be wonderful.
Yes. Yeah.
We were, madly in love.
Yes.
And if it had been a normal thing to go to therapy when things are fine,
Yes.
then we would have known
absolutely.
very quickly what steps to take to ensure that things remained fine, right? To grow in the similar direction together, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
But of course, who goes to therapy when they're fine,
Well,
right?
that's the
That
thing.
is the common narrative.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, I think that when I get into another relationship, I would very much welcome starting to go to therapy together within the first couple of years.
Yes.
When
Just
things
to-
are still great.
Yes, exactly. Just to find out how you can continue the grade, right? And
Are there any blind spots?
Exactly, yeah.
Are there any points on which we should be working that could become problematic in the future? Things like that,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There is another question I wanted to ask you, Amelia, and that is about your experience during this whole process with the tarot, from any perspective you want, because I know that the tarot is quite central to your way of grounding, to your way of regulating yourself during the process from start to. I guess you're still using the tarot
Yes,
quite.
I guess I'm going to be using the
regularly and so
tarot
on.
for the rest of my life.
Right.
That's definitely a part of my constitution. It was sort of a scaffolding, right? It was a scaffolding that was keeping me upright during a very intense tower moment, right? Let's speak in the tarot words. Very helpful. It was very helpful. I do tarot for myself, but I also had some external tarot readers doing it for me. I have.
By the way, there is one person who I hope is watching this right now. I won't say her name, but my goodness. Thank you. I
Yes.
reached out to her and I told her about our situation, and she said, "No problem." Yeah, and that was really amazing, wasn't it?
That was a genuine moment of magic. That was really, really quite special and significant for my path as a person further on as well, like into the future. So yeah, very, very important, pivotal tarot read for me. Yeah, definitely. So me reading tarot for myself, other people reading for me, also using tarot reads on YouTube a little bit. I mean, you have to be careful because there are a lot of people on YouTube. Some know better what they're doing than others. So just kind of use your intuition and see what feels right.
Naturally,
for you.
yeah. I'm sorry for interrupting you again, but yes, there is so much charlatanism. I would say that if you're looking at YouTube for your tarot reads and you're not practicing magic yourself to ensure that you're getting the right reads. I would say it's not a healthy thing to be looking at on a regular basis. As entertainment, maybe at the beginning of your month for your general star sign, sure. But if you're looking at videos that are like, if this message found you today, then this is significant.
Very careful with that.
Be very careful.
If you don't know much about tarot, it's probably not a good thing because you won't be able to say, what's genuinely happening. And but because YouTube for me is like extension of chaos, right? So it's a perfect environment to get messages, right? And if you going through the path yourself and you're using tarot yourself and there is somebody reading tarot on YouTube and you think, oh, this is really kind of a continuation of what I've just done and the symbols are the same and the phrases they're using are the same and it just basically is a manifestation of what's been going on through your head for the past 2 hours,
then yes, of course.
Like you can kind of be like, okay, so maybe there's something there for me because like literally words and symbols just.
So so this comes from a place of knowing what you're looking at.
Knowing what you're looking at from a technical point of view, but also using your intuition and going, okay, well, I had this dream last night, and she's talking exactly about my dream. And I mean, then it doesn't have, if it's a message for you, it's for you. You can use it. If you can't use it,
that's cool.
I don't think there's any harm done, because you just, you can, but use your discernment, definitely.
Would you recommend reaching out to a tarot reader during those moments of insecurity, uncertainty? Uncertainty is the word I'm looking for.
I mean, definitely. That depends what you're into personally, right? Like, I mean, you have to feel comfortable reaching out, but yes, I mean, it has been very helpful for me. Very helpful.
Would you say that the one-to-one tarot read that was so generously gifted to you, would you say that and your YouTube tarot reads were on a similar level of helpfulness, or?
No, I mean, I think, personal one-to-one with a live person, obviously that's going to be more to the point and more about you, right? I mean, I do believe there are some general tendencies on the planet, and if the tarot reader is good, they will pick up on those general tendencies. And if you are living from your authenticity, you will pick up on those tendencies as well, and so one feeds the other in that sense. So the online tarot reads are helpful as well, but one-to-one with an experienced tarot reader is particularly for you, not for a group of people, right? So it's going to have more details in it. It's going to have more this is precisely what you need to focus on now, rather than just a general overview of the energies that are swirling in your head.
And then maybe if there are any processes that aren't extremely secret, extremely private, extremely personal, if there's anything that you've been doing recently, now that you have been finding your voice a little bit more clearly, is there anything that you've been doing recently that that you could share with the viewers? Because I know that there have been plenty of processes, but maybe some of them aren't too personal.
Okay. Well, in very general terms, I have been working on and off with the Gallery of Magic stuff, and that's been helpful to an extent.
What in particular?
So many things of magic. I have started to dip into working with demons as well a little bit, which is new for me. And I guess what happened with the entire process is that I'm just not scared anymore. No, I'm joking.
I'll be making a video shortly about the difference between working with angels and demons.
So it's interesting, right? When you kind of start from a more grounded and stable place in yourself and following your intuition of what's going to work for you and not work for you, then the fear is no longer, it's not that it's not present, it's irrelevant, right? It's irrelevant. So yeah, I've done a little bit of that. Working with Hecate has been very helpful as well, right? Because she's the goddess of thresholds, right? And this definitely is a threshold. This is an old world collapsing into dust, and the new world not quite there yet. That has been tremendously powerful. I'm in the process. I can't say, I'm the specialist now on Hecate and I know.
What materials are you using?
I'm using the wonderful, wonderful course of Jack Grail at the moment. Wow. I mean, there are no other words to.
See, I'm not the only one. Jack Grail's stuff is the best.
It's on another level. Yeah. It's on another level. I wouldn't be able to give it justice by using words. So that's that really. So yes, I was very lucky and privileged to be able to access it because my husband had access, and as we still husband and wife, I hope I'm not going to be in trouble.
Jack very kindly gave me permission to share this with Emilia a while ago. Yeah.
So working with Hecate as a goddess of thresholds, that's I do recommend that to anyone who's going through a change, right? Who's going through a very significant, deep change. And
I'll leave links to the course down below. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much in a nutshell what has been keeping me in an upright position these past few months, right? Definitely rebuilding a lot of internal structures that I didn't even expect I had. Magic is helpful when you have to do that, right? When you have to dig deep into your subconscious, kind of go into the underworld and descend and go through the labyrinth, and you don't even have the Ariadne's thread to go around, and you have to just kind of feel your way through the darkness. I think magic is particularly helpful in those instances.
So really nice imagery you just brought up there. Is there any literature that you can recommend on that topic?
Okay. No, not really, because the thing I was using was tarot, right? And tarot was telling me descend, and the only way really you can do it genuinely is just to be quiet and stay silent with yourself, and you go deeper and deeper every time you sit with yourself, and with tarot was the pathfinder for me, right? It was my own intuition and working with my dreams, and I mean there's a whole plethora of things.
Inner Work, is that a book that was useful for you?
Inner Work, remind
something Johnson.
Inner Work, very sort of classic position, right? In books about Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson, I think it was written in the 70s, that book. He's a Jungian psychologist who wrote a book about working with your dreams, working with your dream symbols, and working with active imagination as well. So you can, for example, I mean, it's a whole book, but just to give a little example, you can, if you remember your dream in the morning, you can then take your dream and use active imagination techniques to go deeper into the dream. And sort of talk to the characters from your dream and explore the places deeper within your conscious imagination already, and that is a wonderful process to sort of dig deeper into subconscious.
Nice.
Very nice.
One more question I wanted to ask you, Emilia, is do you feel like if anyone was watching this thinking to themselves, yeah, but she could have chosen to stay, what would you say to them?
It's a good question, because a lot of people do have that reaction, right? Because, it's been 20 years, you're going to throw away 20 years of your life. What else do people say? But you like each other.
Yes.
I mean, we do. We like each other. So isn't that enough? No, I guess I would say... Sorry, how did you form the question again? Like, what was the exact...
I said, if somebody were to say, yes, but she could have chosen to stay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could have chosen to stay. It would be a choice that I would make completely in violation of what I was feeling. But then because of the internal process that I have gone through, that I've put myself through, and the result being I cannot lie to myself anymore. I cannot do things that our lies, really. And really sort of this sticking to my truth being such a deep and powerful imperative, right?
Again, would you say that is a choice to stick to your deep truth? Would you say that you could choose not to?
I think once you know your deep truth, I think once you connected to your deep truth, right? I think once you live from there, right? You live from the authentic self, then no. I imagine it would create so much discomfort.
You could stick it out for a couple of days.
I mean, yeah. But then again, I was going through that process. I was thinking, obviously, naturally I was thinking, what if I'm making a mistake? What if this is we've got a son, maybe for him, what? Yes.
By the way, I just wanted to say, because you just said about our son, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say that the good of our son has been at the forefront of our mind the whole time, hasn't it? Course. I mean, it was one of the reasons why we agreed to talk in the first place, right? It was like, okay, we've got a son with disabilities. We need to make sure that he is okay at the, coming out of that. And it was one of the reasons why we agreed to go to therapy, was precisely to make sure that we would come out of this okay. Whatever the situation between us ended up being, we needed to make sure that we were okay, and therefore that our son would be okay. So yes, that was actually a really positive influence. Sorry for interrupting.
It's
important, right?
The most important thing, and other considerations, right? So of course I had these thoughts, going through my mind, going, is this the right thing to do? And whenever I had these thoughts, the next one was always, yes, but it wouldn't be genuine. It wouldn't be true. I would have to break myself somehow to fit in again. I would have to give up on all the work that I've done throughout all of the years to get to who I am and what I am, in order to kind of fit in again. And past a certain point of individuation, I don't think that is an option anymore. I think that's,
Thank you for
good
that.
Point.
So, hopefully it's clear for people watching why I cannot resent Emilia for the process. I was handed this as a gift, right? I mean, it was a difficult gift to receive, but for me, it was just like, oh, there's this new situation. Can I adapt to this new situation? Yes, I can. Actually, it's quite nice. Okay, great. So thanks. For Emilia, it was a lot more than that. So yes. So as you can see. Very difficult for me to be resentful. Quite on the contrary, it makes perfect sense to me. I think that lying or withholding truth even is something that I've not been able to do since I went through a similar individuation process at the age of 19, right? 19, 20, I guess. Because we said we met at 20, but actually I guess we were 24, 23. Yeah, so I'd just been through something like this a few years earlier, but I'd been through something like this not after 40 some years. I'd been through something like this after 19 years, right? So I guess the process was much easier for me. I had much less to lose, right? I was just a single guy, just going through finding out who he was, and so I had the chance to do that a little bit before getting into this marriage. But nevertheless, the fact that you have gone through an individuation process doesn't remove the fear of abandonment, the fear of not being loved, the excitement of being loved, the excitement of finding someone who's got quite a lot in common with you, get excited about similar things and things like this. You find someone like that and you're like, a match made in heaven. I mean, you saw my video on how we met, right? And that's the way I've had been thinking about this whole thing ever since. But of course, a romantic relationship takes more than
Yeah.
getting on well.
Yeah. A lot more, turns out.
A lot more.
Just one more thing that I would mention here as well, that I don't think either of us thinks that the past 20 years was a waste.
Oh, yeah, this is important.
This is really important, right? Like, I mean, like I wouldn't change it. Like I wouldn't be able to change it from, you know, if we went back to when I was 23, right?
Yes.
And also I wouldn't want to change it because none of it is a wasted time. All of it was tremendously growth promoting. Yes. And it's a treasure, the past 20 years.
Yeah, I feel the same.
It's a treasure.
I feel the same.
It's been difficult. It's not been smooth sailing. You know, but very, very, very significant and really helpful in the sort of soul journey, right? That we're here to experience on this planet.
Hopefully that was useful for some viewers. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to the members who are scrolling up over Emilia's face, no doubt. We'll see where we put those members' names. If you want to reach out, then of course there's always the usual links down below. You can have a one-to-one conversation with me. I think Emilia's thinking about possibly making her own content in the future. That could be we'll see about that. Maybe in English, maybe in Polish. We'll see. Just a huge thank you to all the Patreon members, and take care of yourselves. Take care of each other.
Thanks,
thank you
everyone.
to Emilia for accepting to do this.
Thank you to Denny for offering to do this. This is fun. That was
Yeah,
good.
it was fun.
It was fun.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.